I'm Reverend Steve Van Meter, your senior minister. And our February theme is One Journey, Many Paths. And our title today is The Infinite Invisible. Well, happy Valentine's Day. I want to start with the invisible energy that moves through our life on a constant basis. If we were to ask to see the wind, we would say, well, you don't really see the wind, you see the result of the wind. We see what the wind does, and it moves things, it moves the trees, and it moves everything that is. But you can't really touch it. It can touch you, though. It's the same with love. Love is not something that we can really put in a bottle and sell. It's something that is invisible. Back to the wind idea, two students of truth were watching a flag wave and having a debate over what was happening. And one of the students said, well, the flag is moving. And the other student said, no, the wind is moving the flag. And the teacher said, your mind is moving. All which is true. But when we think about the infinite as being invisible, but visible is everything that we see, because everything that we do see is a result, is an outpicturing of the divine. If we truly believe that everything is divinity in expression, there's no exception. There's nothing outside of that energy. So we're encouraged to move from thinking about the divine to feeling it, to experiencing it, to knowing it as who and what we are, not just as something happening outside of us, but something that is happening inside of us as who and what we are. We experience it by the way of a mystical experience that transcends any one path or one religion or one tradition. All religions of the world and non-religion is part of the divine expressing itself. And we each get to choose what works best for us. One mountain, many paths. One tree with many branches. One river and many streams. Joe Goldsmith said it like this: put into practice what you already know as a means to having prayers answered. So the painter paints, the dancer dances, the chef cooks, Dave plays his music. These are all mystical experiences that we get to witness and enjoy. So what's your mystical divine outpicturing? What's your mode? Maybe it's working with wood, or maybe it's working with children, or whatever. Whatever it is, it's yours. And you know when it's yours, when you lose yourself in the midst of it. What is it that you can lose yourself inside of that becomes you so powerfully and passionately that you wonder where the last 4 hours went, that you forgot to eat your lunch, or maybe days go by and you realize, wow, I've been immersed in my project and I forgot where I was. Mystical living is not intellectually achieved. The mystics live in the mystical experiencing by letting God be God as them. There comes a point when you're lost in the midst of what you are, and all of a sudden you become this mystical experience. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively, we are all called to a higher state of consciousness, and we're moved into action. You know, it's one thing to observe someone painting a picture, but it's different to have the paintbrush in your hand, to have your consciousness out on the tip of that paintbrush, touching the canvas, right there on the leading edge of consciousness. But that's why we came here. We came here to be out there on the skinny branches, because that's where the fruit is. So in our Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes wrote, "There can and does descend into our minds, embody and personify in our person a divinity, a unity, a spirit of God, the direct incarnation of the original thing in us, the mystical presentation of the Christ." And I would add, the Christ consciousness. For whatever we choose to individually believe, there is something that represents the Christ consciousness, or being the infinite. Anything, Holmes goes on to say, anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, so long as it does not harm anyone or ourselves, must be the will of God for us. As much life as one can conceive will become part of their experience. So we must embody it. We must live it. We can't sit on the bench and observe it and call it ours. Although I know for me that it took me several years to observe some things before I could jump into the deep end and swim around on my own buoyancy in some of the things I choose to be, do, and have. You know, we're not all born natural artists, but we can learn to be, especially if it's what we love to do. You can become whatever you choose to be, do, and have. In our core concept for the Science of Mind, course concept number 10 says, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. So, what is your expression? What is your outpicturing of your indwelling experience of the divine? To the degree that we are willing, open, and receptive participants and partners with the divine, with God, our lives can and will correspond to and demonstrate that divine relationship. It's not just a relationship. It's not something that we're just courting. It's something we become. But it starts with courting it. You know, we start by dating it. You know, on this Valentine's Day, you just don't jump into living together. Well, most people, I won't say everyone's the same. But I would hope that there's a courtship. There's a understanding and a learning about each other, about what we represent to each other, what we can do for each other, or what we can do for ourselves in the arena of being loved. When we allow the infinite invisible that resides in, as, and through to celebrate by means of us, then we truly are Christ consciousness beings. God as source is everywhere equally present at all times and always fully active. You know, God doesn't work in like percentages, you know, like God's 50% on today, or oh, God's leaning towards 75% this week. God is always 100% there. You know how you can tell? Look at your own hand. It's closer than your own hand. It's closer than your own breath. What is beating your heart? Do you wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm gonna beat my heart now. I'm gonna breathe the air. I'm gonna digest my food now. No, we are born with that power. So God as source is everywhere equally present and always fully active. God as presence is our essential connection, our wondrous creativity, and our limitless possibility. Each one of us is radiant inspiration and perfect order. When we live from the consciousness of the divine, everything falls into place. We are all this power, but we must do our part. We must listen. You know, our divinity is only ours when we act the part. You know, we need to know and have courted that energy for it to become us. And when it happens, we know it. There's this divine yes. There's this divine click where that power takes over. It is not me, but the power within me that does the work. And that power will not be denied. We can run and we can hide. But if you've ever had a calling to do something, to be something, or to have something, you know that it doesn't let go of you. It becomes your leading edge energy. It is that yes that leads us to our joy, to our love, to changes in our life, to grow, to go on to our greatest yet to be right here and right now. Our souls are calling us to discover our heart's desire. And once we discover it, to live in it, to be it. You know, it might first appear as a curiosity or an interest. It may then grow to be a pull to know more about something. Learning to listen through regular spiritual practice brings trust, hope, and finally vision. The infinite invisible's yes may announce itself through joy and peace and sometimes pain and loss. But behind every experience in life, there is a great yes. Something awaits our acknowledgement and responds. Will we be the ones that dance with the divine? Will we engage with our talents and our hearts to expand and grow in awareness, the light, and understanding? Making that 15-inch traverse from our head to our heart center. It means trusting and feeling and imagining and courting. Your very imagination is the connection with your divinity. What is the way that you dance with spirit? What's your dance? Why are you here? You know, we sometimes think that it has to be some grand thing, you know, I'm going to heal world hunger. And it can be something grand like that. And I so appreciate those people that have that calling. But it can be as simple as, I want to know more love in the world. And maybe it starts with loving yourself. I know that at times that's been my challenge. You know, we make some silly mistake, or we say something out of turn, or something happens and we feel small. And that's okay. Those times happen. But we have to know that the power that gave us life and created us didn't put us here to feel small. That's just part of our experience. It's only one of our countless experiences. Maybe now's the time to release the clutter of old ideas in our lives. We need to create spaciousness for our new ideas. They say that the things that you want in your life can't come in because the things you don't want are taking their place. And that's not just in the physical realm. Maybe that's in the mental realm too. Where have we shut down some ideas and say, oh, I couldn't possibly be divine? But that's exactly why we're here. Releasing what no longer serves us physically and mentally creates room for living and thriving. So let go. Let's lighten our load a little bit of who we thought we were. You are part of the divine right here and right now. It can be no other way. If you take a slice of cherry pie out of the cherry pie, the slice is still cherry pie. You are unique. You have unique gifts and talents and dreams that are waiting for you to wake up and accept your divinity. And only you know when that time is. You know, it's time that we stop auditioning for life. Instead, it's time to start being part of it, to become the vehicle for spiritual magnificence and expression. So let's begin to study, to practice, and to strengthen our skills of being the divine. You are worthy right here and right now. You are now pre-approved for your highest good. The mystical journey is calling for our participation in it. Yes, there is work to do, but that's why we're here. We're the people to do that work right here and right now. Yes, there will be growth and challenges in the unfoldment of all that you are. But when you let God be God in you, you shine as the beloved creation that you were sent here to be, in whom this entire universe is well pleased. So in conclusion, life requires agreement and participation. We can't just sit on the bench observing and not expect to be called in the game at some point. Because at some point, we are no longer a spectator. We begin to ask ourselves, what brings us our joy? What inspires that feeling of possibility and energy? Dr. Holmes advises us to begin to prepare for our demonstration. And I say, act as though it is already so. What is the one thing you can do today to prepare yourself for your demonstration? Where are your growing edges? Where do you need to create space in your thinking, in your beliefs, and your daily life to cultivate and nurture your awareness of the infinite invisible as your guide, as your partner, as who and what you are, as source energy expressing? So I invite you to find that one thing today and to become it. And then do it with love, intention, and passion with all your heart. And it will guide you to your next greatest yet to be right now. And so it is. Amen. Well, it's time for our healing prayer. So I invite you to take a soft focus on something that brings you deeper and closer to your awareness of the connection that you are. And let's just bring to the forefront of our consciousness what we believe individually and collectively, that there is a creative energy, that golden thread of truth that runs through everything that is. And it is who and what we are. We are unified in that field of all possibility. And as such, I speak this word of prayer today, knowing that love is happening, that love is the very glue that holds everything together. And that no matter what we do, if we do it with love that harms no one or ourselves, that we are on the right track. That something wells up within us, that divinity that comes forward, provides a way, provides a connection, the right people at the right place at the right time for your demonstration to be made. I may not know what you're walking through, but I know God does. And as we activate that energy in all that we are, it begins to show itself. It begins to come from the invisible into the visible. So we are grateful for this teaching, for our lives, for our love, and we allow that to grow within us, to lose ourselves within that love and become what we have become here to do. So we give great thanks. Our hearts overflow with the gratitude of the universe as we embrace why we're here. And it is easy to release, to let go, to put these words directly into that living, loving law of mind, where it returns to us fully orbed and resplendent as the demonstrations of who we are, as we affirm this together by saying, and so it is. Amen. Well, it's time for our offertory. So I invite you to find your donate button or how you choose to give in the power of who and what you are. And let's recite our affirmation for sharing today, which says, I share my good with love and joy. Once again, I share my good with love and joy. Now let's do a little prayer for what we're offering today. How good it is to know that as we collect these tithes and these gifts that allow this Grants Pass Center for Spiritual Living to be that place where the infinite loves and lives, that we use these tithes in a way that allow us to experience the divine in a more grand way. We give great thanks for all who have given. It is returned to the giver in a multitude of ways, as we affirm this together by saying, and so it is. Amen.